Your ship is well, that only Jolly Roger has been through hell. Yo ho ho, on an adventure we go. In the deep digital high seas, we travel with ease until we reach the outer edge and freeze. The Arctic chill like a very speed mill through the darkness led by our will. Yo ho ho, on an adventure we go to beyond the outer limits of society, broadcasting the reality. The pirates will always steal the show. It's the WPRPN, you know. Yo ho ho, on an adventure we go. Dark, dark vessels in the Skullport Harbor. No land lovers will fight for you harder. Your old first mate went AWOL after a tricky kill haul. The legacy of pirate radio is strong. I hope our mates will come along. The changes we seek may not be long. That is why I wrote this song. And they go ho ho, on adventure we go.
Welcome everybody, friends, folks, foes, and fellow pirate mateys, to our latest weekly edition of World Pirate Radio News. It's show segment number 309. I'm your host, as always, the Robin Hood's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. WPRPN.com is the website you'll want to drop by, take a look at. Keep in mind, sign up is free. All you simply need is a username, password, and email. From there, everything should be pretty much straightforward. If you do happen to run into any problems along the way, not hesitate in getting back to us via our main email address, pirateoneradio@protonmail.com. We'll take whatever steps are necessary in helping to smooth things over and get you sailing off into the sort of direction you hope to be. If you have any, for example, it's a handy dandy email address to keep in mind as well. PayPal support you'd like to offer, always appreciated. Show suggestions or guest ideas, definitely take note of the main email address. It's also a great way to essentially keep you in the loop, as it were, when it comes to any critical emails that we send out from time to time. Be sure to like, comment, share, hit the subscription notification buttons. You know how the deal, how it all shakes out, folks. As far as algorithms are concerned, we need all the support we can get, of course, with the liking, commenting, sharing, and so forth, because of our status, really, where we find ourselves relegated to not just the sidelines, but the very deep digital underground waters. Passing word on to friends, family, and coworkers really helps to provide a big boost as well. We've got merchandise up for grabs. We have a Patreon presence. All the links are available via the show description. end of things, you can also help us out through digital means just by dropping by, for example, Odyssey, where we have our archives, one of our archives, Odyssey, Rumble, BitChute, three main places. We would talk more about Facebook and YouTube, but all too often they tend to want to censor us and anyone else, of course, who falls into the more thought criminal type category, unfortunately. We've been demonetized. Speaking of YouTube, really really unfortunate thing, of course, delegitimized in many ways, demonetized. And that's not a good thing, clearly, especially when anyone from YouTube or Google dares to, address, talk about the whole business of so-called net neutrality. I mean, come on, give me a break. So, but having said all this, it's great to be here. And a bit of a time change here via the Korean end of things. 12 noon is when we will be typically kicking things off now as we move more into the spring part of 2025. Throughout the winter months, it's a 1 p.m. start generally, although we, often struggle to, even as much as we may try, get things off and rolling as promptly and on time as we can. That often proves to be something of a challenge. So we've got Mr. Robot in the house here right off the bat. Great to see him. So I'd like to hear more from you, Mr. Robot. Any thoughts, comments, questions, stories we might be missing out on here as far as what's transpired over the past week in the world of news, current events? Many of the areas and items that we like to discuss where possible are those that either the big mainstream corporate mockingbird press choose to ignore because it does not reflect or accommodate their interests, or they brush over and don't go into as much detail as they could, serving things up more in soundbite type fashion, unfortunately. So have at it by all means. In fact, we will here, if we can, momentarily bring up on screen for audience members via the live streaming end of things, the Word document that we've sketched out this week, trying to get more back into the flow and approach way of doing that. Of course, just any number of different items, talking points, stories that seem to have really kind of captured and caught our attention. We had Alan Tankman Fredrickson out of Fort Collins, Colorado, on board with us here right off during the audio tech check end of things. Of course, he is the the overseer of HomeNetwork.tv, and we've been working on trying to get our act together as far as getting things really in place where we can smoothly redirect our stream to and through WPRPN.com. We need to have a little bit of work done in that regard, though, so that people are essentially on the same page. It'll hopefully all come together here before too long. Whatever the case is, he's doing his best and a great job. However you choose to look at things. Steve out of Calgary, who's also, for whatever reason, had to, step away for the time being. We're hoping that he was going to be able to help bring a little more insight to the whole, as if Canada wasn't already enough of a clown show. Of course, this new hand-picked and appointed globalist, big bankster insider Carney. Yeah, the country. Roger, do you think we got Jolly Roger Hansen, connecting with us here via West Frankfort, Illinois? As if Canada wasn't already enough of a clown show, now they handpicked and appoint completely unelected, Prime Minister Carney running the clown show up there via, in the political sense at least, Great White North. How you doing, Roger?
I'm doing all right. I heard about that with Canada's prime minister and all that. It kind of reminds me of the weird stuff going on in Romania right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Romania
Like,
light.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not as hardcore. They straight out did a horrible thing in Romania. Like that's crazy. This is supposed to be a democratic state, and they turn around and just ignore the voters
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
Like they voted that guy in, and then the government said, "No, we don't want him." You know?
Well, because he's Putin's puppet.
Yeah.
So you can't have that, right? You have to shut that down, right? Before it nip it in the bud, as they like to say. So, and that's all they do is they just come up with some lame ass excuse to try to convince the people that no, we really know better than you, even though he does have this populist support. And that's the same sort of thing, exactly what you hit on there as far as Canada goes. That Carney is the anti-populist
Mm.
alternative. That
Yep.
he's dead set, he's there to do all he can to, uh, throw a wet blanket, I guess, on any populist uprising, insurgency, or momentum, frankly. As old, George Skull and Bones Bush, you know, POTUS 41 referred to it. He called it the Big Mo, I think is what he called it, the Big Mo. We saw Trump demonstrate that in a big way, obviously. This past go around, just a few months ago, obviously. So, anything more you care to add to that, then, or Sonia's still in sick bay, of course. So, I don't know. Have you
Mhm.
been in touch with Sonia? We like to, not that hopefully she'll be passing away here anytime soon, but geez, Robert Morningstar has access to supposedly uh, high quality ivermectin, and not that we're here to offer any formal medical, uh, legal, or financial advice, folks. Do seek out,
She
anyone.
wouldn't take it anyhow.
Oh, she wouldn't? No. What does she do?
Uh-uh.
She'll smoke and drink till the cows
Oh,
come home, but
she's a rebel.
jeez. Are you sure she
Yeah.
wouldn't take ivermectin if she had the choice?
Well, I mean, she tells everybody that everybody gets sick because they're told they're sick. So, you know what I mean? It's like she's something else. Sonya's something else.
Sounds like a Christian Scientist type way of looking at things, damn near.
I didn't want to say any of that, but that's exactly what it reminds me of. It reminds me of those old TV shows where, like, religious fanatics say, we don't want our kid to go into the doctor because it's against our beliefs, and the kid ends
Well,
up dying or
well,
something.
Jehovah's Witnesses, yeah, with the blood transfusions,
You know,
as an example.
it
That's
just,
right.
it just, I don't know. I think that medicine is getting overboard, but like when you're sick, you do need to go to the doctor.
Well, yeah, but the problem, you're right, but it's my body, my choice. But
Hmm.
uh, clearly, with health autonomy, at the
Yep.
same time, this excess, as you say, overboard. It's like government overreach. It's big pharma overreach. Big media, like, geez, can you just imagine if it was through coercion? You had no choice other than to consume the the mainstream, the corporate mockingbird propaganda that's just endlessly, throughout the course of every weekly news cycle that they have, that they're producing. And that's just the nature of the beast, the way that the industry as a whole,
I
it functions. But with me, man, yeah, just, and that's where I got problems with things like the neural link, or brain implants and whatnot. That who the hell we're already plugged into the matrix 24/7 to begin with. Why do you want another layer on top of that? That doesn't, like, who really, you know what I mean, like an actual neural link. Now, one, free choice, as
yeah.
you allude to, with people. See, this, it all goes back to the Nuremberg Code, with the right to informed medical consent. And that's where the powers that be, big pharma, and all of their co-conspirators, essentially, throughout the course of the scamdemic, screwed up. That they went too far, clearly, and they need to be held accountable. They need to be exposed and held accountable. And I guess, partly we saw that, the response to that in how the recent U.S. presidential election played out,
Hmm.
and with the appointment of people like RFK Jr. to the position in Trump's cabinet, as it is, and so on and so forth. But uh, it's just not
It's
what it's that when one person or another. It's, we all need to do our part throughout the course of our each you know our lives, each and every day that we have here on this earth. Because hasn't it ever, like, for example, dawned on you, or haven't you ever asked yourself, like, why am I even still here?
yeah. Well, with me, it's not just like the medicine either. It's like surgical stuff
Right?
too.
Yeah.
Like you remember hearing the old stories about what was his name, Dimitrov and Ivanov, and then there was another one. It was Baronov.
Oh,
They
Ruskies, huh?
well, yeah, and their experiments. They like Baronov wanted to actually use the head, or he's the one that was wanted to do the ape army for the Russians.
Oh, the ape army under Stalin.
Remember hearing about that?
Yeah, under Stalin.
You remember that?
I heard about it. Sure, like that's something worth looking
No.
into for people who haven't heard, that haven't themselves, done so. Go ahead. And, well, before you do, big shout out to guess who, Roger. If you're, well, you can probably see her with the screen share we've got. Karma Love
Oh
dropping by.
yeah.
So our favorite, I mean, how much more
It's,
hot chocolate do we really need?
it's,
That
well,
is burning,
I was
burning.
I was able to do some editing today with Strange Stories, man,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna tell you right now, me and her did a really good job on
Did
that. Like,
did she drop by and join you recently?
well, no, I mean the older episodes, I turn them into
Okay.
15-minute clips,
Yeah.
and the first season, me and her did together. And I mean, I'm going through and I'm listening to this stuff again, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, it was excellent.
That's the way to do it, and that's what we need. I just don't have the time, like for some people out there to edit our material, so then we can republish and package, because that's what the public really goes for. They don't necessarily want to sit through long format type uh, live stream. I mean, look, Joe Rogan and Tim
Yeah.
Pool, like they all do it, right? All the big shots across social media. So, but we just don't have the resources. So, if that's something you're interested in helping us out with, you or anyone else out there listening, maybe Mr. Robot or one of his more techno savvy compadres, then do let us know. Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com. Continue, please.
Who, me?
Yeah, you're the only one we have with us here. Alan has stepped away, and Steve from Calgary. Yeah, he's.
Mhm.
Why did this come back on the camera? I don't understand. That's really weird. I turned it off so for the
Well,
time being. But go ahead.
with Vladimir Dimitrov, he was the one who transplanted the the head of a smaller dog to the freaking body of a bigger dog. I don't know if you remember ever hearing about that
Yeah,
or not.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, you would think that the uh, medical community would shun that stuff and they would say no, but they turned around and took his research, and because of the mistakes he made, they were able to come up with medicines because of that. And they also did experiments with animals freaking like in that nature, where they wanted to actually infuse like genitals from an ape onto a human penis for
Yeah,
male
yeah.
enhancement,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know.
Stalin had a big. He was all in as far as getting to the point where he could produce this hybridized super soldier, and
Hmm.
that on a similar note, that in fact is said to be the very issue that led to UFO Hunters, Bill Burns and the UFO Hunter series being shut down. That they had stumbled upon documents, files, proof essentially that these secret experiments were taking place much in the same way as we hear about not only MK Ultra, but the Montauk
Yeah,
program, Camp Hero, and so forth. There's just countless number of examples. Of course, everything's all compartmentalized,
yeah,
right? So that the left hand doesn't necessarily know what the right is doing. But once these stories break and the information comes to the surface, it's like they say, it's the Bible talks about, nothing that is done in the dark, you know, uh, everything that's done in the dark will be brought into the light. Similar to how the Buddha put it quite simply, that there are only three things that cannot uh, be hidden forever: the sun, the moon, and do you know the third one?
my butt.
The truth.
Oh, the truth. Yeah, that too.
That's according to the Buddha, supposedly. So, yeah. Anyways,
I saw that interview you did with Brian Rue. That was actually pretty good. You and Robert did
mm,
really great with
yeah,
him.
he's back on his medication, thank God. So,
Yeah,
he's a really bright fellow and really kind, really really sweet guy. Really, because I mean, most Buddhists are good people, basically. Um, but
yeah. Well, I mean,
but he
it,
was he
it's
was off his medication, and when people do that, like, just think of how so many were challenged. Like the challenges, the world of psychiatrics is problematic, and once again,
yeah,
here we go, big pharma. Although hey, and then that's where it's like we're kind of straying into the waters of where potentially algorithms could be triggered, and boob tube could decide that, oh, geez, oh, you can't say that, and they'll just respond with you know what, and so hindering our ability to live stream. Oh, you had an opinion which challenged, in the sense of like R.D. Laing and anti-psychiatry, for example,
Yeah.
or which people haven't heard of R.D. Laing and his work in that area of anti-psychiatry. Definitely look into it. But the point, as I see it, some people definitely need their medication, and it helps them. Clearly, I know of a few people personally, other than
Yeah.
even Brian, without
Well,
naming any names.
just to let you know, I
Right?
mean, he did an excellent interview with
Yeah.
me. I mean, don't
Oh,
get me wrong.
the,
He did
uh
an
huh.
excellent interview with
Right.
me,
Right.
and it was just the stuff that took place afterwards. You know what I mean? The
Well, without go, and that was it. Was he off his meds at that time? He
No,
probably was.
he's perfectly fine. If you watch the interview, he
Yeah.
did an excellent
Well,
job.
okay.
Everything. I mean, he did a great job. It's just it was with the recommendations that he said that we should contact. Now I could have probably just contacted him and not use him as a reference. But I just thought that would have been disrespectful. And these people said what they said, and in all reality, when I was sitting there listening to them, I was like, I don't know these people from shit. I don't know who they are, and you know, I just had a really good interview with Brian. I mean, I'm not going to turn around and be a dick to him about it. You know what I mean? So I sent him an email back, and I just told him, look, maybe you shouldn't hand these people's names out to people you do interviews with because they're not giving you a good review. You know what I mean? And that's all I did. I mean, but he did an excellent interview with me. I mean, he did a really good job. You know, yeah, it was the thing that got me the most was like when it was just amazing to me that he actually like referred these people to me. You know what I mean? I didn't expect that. I was like, why would he do that? Why would he, you know, say, hey man, you need to contact this person and for an interview, and then this person, and then when they're contacted, they just started saying all of these negative things about him, and then that's when it dawned on me, hold on, like he's got mental illnesses and stuff too. So me and Bob Dub had to go through all that, and it scared the crap out of her. I ended up telling her straight up, I let me just go ahead and contact them and everything, and because she was the one that contacted them for me first, and then after that, that's when all the other stuff happened.
Yeah. Well, but once you understand that you've been around enough goofy people, um, because he's not a violent person. I don't think he's never made any threats or anything against anyone. He's never,
No,
some people engage in self harm, or or they may be violent towards others. He's never been that way at all because of his philosophical principles. So let's see what we got here as far as Mr. Robot in the comments. Same with Germany. The whole EU was created to become a totalitarian one world government. Yep, totalitarian one world government, and very much it's Jewish Bolshevism, an extension of the whole communist agenda as it was. I don't know if you could say conceived of, but definitely implemented and rolled out. You had the reds and the whites. Is my uh, understanding of how that Russian Revolution played out, and the Rothschilds were instrumental. Really, they were a leading. They were the ones who actually really, apparently, so the story goes, wanted to see the Romanovs disappear, as it were.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. Kind of like the way that the Sanhedrin back in the day wanted to see, they demanded the death of Christ. You know, a lot of people, like we just had Brian on, Brian actually showed up on uh, Robert's show the other day, the Morningstar Report, and talked about how it was the Jews who killed Christ. You know, it wasn't actually it was the Roman soldiers who did it, but they
Mhm.
did it on the demands of the Sanhedrin. Is how the story goes, right? And how accurate that is, I'm not sure. It kind of makes sense, though. And you know, the Sanhedrin was the high, like the priestly, the Jewish uh, clerical council, of which, interestingly, two things. Nicodemus, I just found this out the other day. Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, the uncle of Christ. A lot of people are not aware of this and connecting the dots, but he's the uncle of Christ. They were both members of the Sanhedrin. They didn't want Christ dead. Pretty sure they did not want him dead. You know, but and Joseph was the uncle, was the one supposedly who claimed the body, which Pilate was surprised to hear that he was supposedly deceased so quickly. So
Mr. Robot's got more to say about that. He
who's
just
got
heard
more?
what
Oh,
Mr.
Mr. Robot.
Robot.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
said according to the remote viewing data of Farsight, Christ didn't get crucified. Judas pointed out the wrong guy.
Well, there's a twin too, allegedly, right? So even the
And
Muslims, the Islam talks about a twin, I believe, and the papacy knows about it but are keeping it quiet. Well, yeah. So they were talking about nullifying the election if the populace. Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they won't even allow him to appear on the ballot. That's right. This, but didn't, you know, his name is Ceausescu too? Didn't is it it's Romania? Didn't Romania already have a bit of a problem historically with the leader named Ceausescu? Or was that a
well,
different country? That was Romania, I'm pretty sure, wasn't it?
Romania, I believe so. And it's like that
They
was
shot that guy and his wife. So is
that it's a very corrupt country.
sure.
You know that's the country I was telling you about when it comes to like real freaking uh, what do they call this? Sex trade, slavery. Like
Y-
they actually it runs rampant in that country.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to do
It's
something, I guess, to survive, right?
uh,
But it's not as bad as Ukraine. My sense is that Ukraine is even worse, actually, truth be told. But
don't go to that region on vacation if you're a beautiful young
oh
woman.
my
Just let me.
God, yeah. And did you see those movies like Saw? Was it Saw and Hotel or Hostel? Hostel?
Oh yeah,
That's
hostile.
just nasty shit, man. Like I watched a little bit of like one or two of one of each, and it's like this is disgusting. But at the same time, that sort of thing, I do believe actually, if they get their hands on you, like that's the whole thing is like, yeah, we got you, like and we're gonna do this and torture you and do and this is there's nothing good you can say about that at all, other than it's great. It's great to have when they're captured, obviously when they're or the people, men, women, and children are freed, because it's let's not forget it's not just women, primarily young women, I guess, but also children and even males that they do some pretty
Mhm.
sick things too. And
I mean,
then you got the dark web, of course, right, where they using crypto and encrypted
yeah,
accounts and ways of live streaming. It's like, hey, send me some Bitcoin and I'll let you watch this.
yeah.
It's like, geez, this is like serious shadow shit that we're seeing here. So, uh, But and for me, it's a question. It always goes back to you are what you eat, and I don't mean that in a cannibalistic sense or either, folks. Uh,
Well,
you know, clearly.
you are
That-
Canadian. You are Canadian. I mean,
what? What's that? Oh,
you
you
are
are.
Canadian. You
We eat
know.
moose and
No,
beaver.
I mean
Definitely a lot
Canadian.
of beaver in the winter months.
Now,
Karma will like that joke.
I heard from somebody that
Chocolate beaver.
the disappearance of the school kids. Somebody told me that that happened way back in the '60s.
Right? And under the watchful eye of Queen Elizabeth II. But that's up in the air, really. There's apparently no. It's problematic. Like it's yet to be definitively proven. Actually, this is my understanding. That's so. Maybe you could look into that further and see what you come up with. But talk to Naroki. He's
That's what
actually,
I was wanting to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to Naroki. He's the guy that'll be able to help fill you in a little better and you know uh, play the part of a
See,
sounding board.
there's one connection that a lot of you Canadians don't put together, and Naroki catches on to it,
Yeah,
and it's that freaking road up there in Saskatchewan, or no,
you're talking
right?
about the Highway of Tears.
Yeah, Highway of
That's an
Tears.
out in British Columbia, dude. Come on, get your Canadian geography straight.
Well, I know I'm not Canadian,
This is
but
another one of those ignorant Yankees.
but you know
They don't know shit about
you got that Highway of Tears, and then you have the mystery that happened with the kids back in the '60s.
Yeah, Kamloops, the residential schools.
You
Now,
know,
the residential schools as a whole, that was a big problem. There's no doubt about that. And there were some that did probably die under very mysterious circumstances that the abuse was probably a lot more rampant and widespread than most Catholics would ever want to cop to, and admit. It's one of the reasons I've never been drawn to Catholicism or the Catholic Church is largely because of the bloody horrific legacy, what they have done throughout the years. They as if I guess what they try to do is hedge their bets on the fact that most people are not going to study history or reflect on the past and the how the institution has what they've done throughout the years, how horrific they've
yeah.
proven themselves to be. It's there's no excuse.
Mm-hmm. Now, Naroki told me that the government's actually trying to cover it up. They're trying to deny that it ever had, or that I
Well,
said,
but Trudeau, see, oh, here, no, Trudeau, what he did, I think what Trudeau did, I have to fact check me on this one, folks, but he tried to apologize for the whole business regarding not just the residential schools, but Kamloops in particular. Although, and the apparent, uh, the number of bodies that were found and buried. Where exactly I could not tell you, but the thing about it is that there's no, still, there's no proof. It's just a lot of speculation and talk. There's nothing that's actually, really. Uh, I I'm not sold on the fact of Kamloops in particular. Although the residential schools as an institution, just the
Mhm.
broader kind of infrastructure, absolutely, you bet there are problems, molestation and physical abuse, and you name it, just a horrible, where they would be the native young Indian kids would be, because I grew up with a lot of these people, right, and their children, and
Mhm.
I heard enough stories to get clear enough
Well,
sense of just the terrible, what they had to endure, where they would be made to scrub the Indian out of their skin, for example, in
mhm.
showers, and they could not talk their native language or tongue. They were not allowed to practice anything dealing with their culture, their people, their history whatsoever. It was a cultural genocide. So,
Yeah.
but now the tides it's shifted. The pendulum has swung back where the fact is they get everything for free. So these days it's not so bad to be born. Uh, I would argue like you got a lot of opportunity if you're able to live a sober life.
Yeah.
Because if you start drinking, especially as a native, like it's just terrible. It's really bad. You know, like I said, I grew up around enough of them to see the sort of thing that sober, great people, for the most, and kind of like my mom actually, who was, I don't know, maybe she couldn't have. How could we have any native in this? That doesn't make any sense. The descendants came from uh, from the UK on her side. So, but she was a terror. She just do best. She was a much better person when she didn't drink. That's why I'm just so one of the reasons I'm not a fan of alcohol, other than for myself. And hey, why should BoobTube shut us down for this? Like, oh, they're talking about alcohol and medicinal use, and like, oh, you're putting that in your body, like, it's just so arbitrary the way that they choose to enforce the ridiculous,
Oh, they're fine with you.
policies.
They're fine with you running a rant about doing drugs
Oh,
and
really? BoobTube?
yeah, and drinking and stuff. They're
Really?
cool with that.
Huh? How
They
about
have no
that?
problem with it whatsoever. You can sit on YouTube, smoke dope on the freaking screen, and they don't even care.
Oh, yeah.
But God forbid you start talking about freaking medical stuff
Or
that have that,
criticizing China, or
you
who
know.
knows what exactly. It's just so, like I said, it's just arbitrary, man. It's so random and arbitrary. It's ridiculous.
It's targeted is what it is,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's really the best way of saying it. Is it's targeted.
right.
It's so targeted that who could not say that it's excessive censorship? I mean, you've got to be an idiot for that kind of stuff not to like right in your face tell you straight up that they're censoring you. You know?
Okay, let's see, Mr. Robot. What's he going on about now here? Uh, and by the way, speaking of remote viewing, there's supposed to be some sort of special technology that the Vatican has where they were able to remote view the crucifixion. There's
Mhm.
some bizarre. I'm not sure what the term is. Maybe Mr. Robot knows, but
Oh, I guarantee he does.
mhm,
He loves remote viewing. He'll
uh-huh,
sit there and talk.
yeah,
I'm not a big fan of it. You know what I mean? Like, but he is. He just sits there and
right.
he'll talk about it and this is fact 100% and blah blah
Uh,
blah. And he just loves them to death, man.
Okay, so and Mr. Robot largely is chiming in here via D Live, Karmalov over on YouTube. So these guys have been amazingly accurate. Everything else for 20 years, so I'm inclined to believe it. Well, thank you, Mr. Robot. That's glowing words of support. Uh, although I guess I don't think he's talking about us. Actually, he's referring to someone. Who are you? Who are you? Who
He's
you?
talking about the remote viewers.
Oh, whoever they are, I guess. Okay, so
Yeah. Now
the
see
Farsight
that
Institute, maybe, but
yeah, the
Robert
far side.
Morningstar is very much into remote viewing. So there's something. I have some really interesting dreams from time to time. That's about all I've got to say about that. And I brought that up, kind of bounced a few of the what I'd been experiencing off of Robert, and he seemed to think that it had something to do with kind of dialing in a little more, sort of fine tuning one's remote viewing ability, as it were. And there's a talk of like the astral realm and so forth, which some people say that's maybe where we go when we're kind of in the dream world, as it were. A lot of heavy, really intense REM activity in the mornings. Interesting, right before I wake up, and I know basically when my REM cycle is peaked. Even though I love going back to sleep so that I can reconnect, plug back in, tap back in to the world of dreams. So, but in addition to that, just finally capping things off, and I'm not sure where we're going to pivot to or transition to. Although I guess the talking points that we have on hand would maybe be a decent place to start.
Yeah.
Karmalov, it's just when you speak of world changing possibilities and attempts to actualize, that's when you're deemed a threat to the group. Right, yeah. And they definitely, one thing they don't like are strong, confident males. I think Andrew Tate is probably an extreme example of that. The way that he could dial it down a little bit and still be very, I think he would be a lot more appealing, actually, if he were not so, uh, what is the term, bombastic? You know,
Yeah.
with the way that he goes about, kind of expressing himself,
So for me,
basically,
for
so.
me, it's about trendy. Like when you sit, even when you sit and you watch a lot of these alternative outlets, I guess you can call them. I don't know if you want to call them media sources, but like the Red Pill, especially, like that's the one reason why I respect Naroki is because he's not like a lot of these guys that are with Red Pill and the Manosphere and all that. Okay, they they like to do things that are trendy. Like Fresh and Fit came out with this whole setup where they took all these beautiful OnlyFans chicks and they lined them up around a table and then they would degrade them and talk and call them bitches and whores and all this crazy
Whoa, whoa,
stuff.
whoa, whoa. Who's this now?
Fresh and Fit,
Oh, Fresh and Fit. Yeah, right.
and then after
Wow.
they did it, every single one of these guys turned around and did everything the same way that these guys did because it became a trend.
Call to refer to all women as bitches and whores.
Just the one that's were in the room,
Well,
just just
they're nice looking ladies that kind of they are they're selling their sex in a big way, are they not? That's
right,
largely what their whole
right.
trip is like, shapely, comely, and how much money can we can we produce here over the long term before our shelf life wears out, our appeal, our market appeal and value subsides, as it is with all women. Is how the story goes, I guess, right?
Well,
So
I mean,
they're smart.
you also have to take it into consideration that these people are supposed to be talking about men becoming independent and not relying on women and becoming their own person and all this good positive stuff supposedly.
Fresh and Fit, the host to the show. That's what their focus is, really. Or
That's what the whole
the red pill,
object that's
the
what the whole meaning
MGTOW.
is for MGTOW, yeah, is
So
to cause see a lot of men run around and they're freaking everything's sex based. Okay, their whole purpose in life has to do with sex.
well,
It doesn't even matter.
young men especially.
Yeah, and this goes even deeper than just the physical aspects. It's
Trophy
like
wives, gotta have the trophy wife
men get
if you can.
married, they freaking start having babies, and the next thing you know, their entire life is just dependent on taking care of this family and
Yeah.
having everything rotates around that. And then when things fall apart, say they get divorced, they have nothing. They seem like their entire life is gone
Well, yeah, you get
because
caught up a bit, maybe custody battle and child support payments. While
but
trying to deal with your mortgage and
well, I
everything
mean,
else that goes,
everything
you lose your
rotated around
job.
children. everything rotated around children and their wife, and that was it. There was no them. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see. They had
you know
no
what I'm.
identity themselves because it was all, they handed it all over to, they felt like they were sacrificing everything for others.
Yeah, for their family, and which
It kind of
is
sounds
which
like
is
my
it,
dad a little bit, actually.
right? You know, and when they go through a divorce, all that's gone, and there they are stuck with themselves, and they're like, "What am I going to do?" You know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
that's what they're supposed to be teaching each one another or helping each other with. And then you turn around and you take a look at Fresh and Fit, who are doing exactly the opposite. They're exploiting women so that they can get attention. You see,
So that the women can get attention, or the Fresh and Fit
so that they can
crew?
get attention. Okay,
Well, they
like
do
they
a
should
pretty good
be
job.
having conversations, but not using women in order to do it. They should be able to do their shows and have their conversations without doing exactly what the problem is. They're trying to exploit women in order to get views and get people on their show because they got these hot, sexy chicks that are on there. You know what I mean? That's the only reason why they're on that show.
The women or the hosts? Oh, the
Women,
women, because they're hot and sexy.
because they're sexy, and
Yeah,
people are going to get on their show and watch it
of
just so they
course.
can see all those women.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Oh shit, we
that
forgot to bring up we forgot to launch Telegram. Damn it. You forgot to remind me.
I
So
I told you.
yeah, well, it's okay. It's, I've only got myself to blame here, so we'll take care of that momentarily. In the meantime, yeah, it's Mr. Robot and Karmalov largely holding things down via the peanut gallery end of the conversation. We had Alan Tankman, Alan Fredrickson here, connecting with us in the pre-show audio tech end of things. He's got to head off to bed, however, for early, was it 4 a.m., maybe I think 4:30 a.m. start. And what happened exactly to Steve from Calgary, I have no idea. Sonia's in sick bay, and and so it goes. We'll be losing Skype here in about a month's time, is what we're looking at as well. So kind of scrambling, scratching our heads, wondering what we're going to do, what sort of approach it's going to be at that point in order to, make the best, top quality live stream. What we're going to do, what sort of possible. So a little bit of bleed in there coming to us via Telegram, unfortunately, because every time we launch the platform, that's the way things go. Unfortunately, if we had more in the way of web tech support, that wouldn't be the case. But just gotta roll with the punches and carry on. So speaking of web tech support and the like, out of Austin, Texas, just today, as a matter of fact, pretty sad, shocking news regarding the murder is what it would appear, of one of Alex Jones's staff, gunned down in cold blood via, just, I think he was just outside his home in Austin, and he was attacked and murdered, is what it would appear. So, did you hear about that?
No, actually, I got
Breaking
a
news.
I caught I got I caught up on the whole thing that happened in Texas on that, but I didn't hear about. Wait, hold up. Somebody was assassinated too.
That's who they assassinated him. So he
And
got
who was
assassinated.
it again?
It was one of, I don't know his name. I can't. The
Yeah,
name escapes me, but he was one of his, staff members. Someone that was
Was
a reporter and helped to provide a lot of quality news coverage. So, what sort of beef the gunman or woman had with this person is anybody's guess.
InfoWars, right?
Yes, indeed, that is the case. So, and that's just something that's just been breaking here over the last few hours. In the meantime,
No,
we've lost a friend as well.
Jamie Jamie White.
Okay, Jamie White. So there's more to be done as far as investigating that whole, uh, that whole story. Obviously, really tragic, and I'm not sure if he himself had a family or what the situation was with him on the
Yeah,
domestic front. But it's just, you know,
yeah.
it's
You
so
you want
basically
you
murder.
want to talk about that cartel thing too, and I you know about the bust that happened in the last 2 days down there, right?
There was a bust.
Yeah, there were two of them.
You're referring to the Dolly Parton. Uh,
No,
we're bringing it with the Dolly Parton story we've got coming up here. I think you want to. Well, which one, Dolly or
okay. Yeah.
Texas? Her
No,
husband
no,
died.
Texas, Mexico, both together had a $5 million meth seizure. And then today, that was yesterday in the
Mm-hmm.
news. And then today, they found out that the authorities also was able to get 50 pound, no, 50 pound, pounds of fentanyl seized as well.
Mm-hmm.
And 50 pounds of fentanyl is a lot. So, and then on top of that, there's $5 million worth of meth that was seized yesterday in Texas.
All right. Well,
So,
that's great, obviously, because I mean, who the hell, other than for medical reasons, wants to come anywhere even close to fentanyl, in any way. It can be used for medical reasons to in, to a limited extent, correct?
I honestly have no idea what the use of fentanyl is in the medical field to believe.
But
I was
you've heard
even
about
thinking
that.
that.
You've heard that we've heard that. Look at my double chin there. Look at that Elvis double chin thing going on there. I'm not as fat. I don't. I'd like to think I'm not as fat as in real life as I appear on camera, but it is what it is. So
You don't have a double chin, dude. You look like Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck,
Tom Selleck, dude.
actually, do you want to hear a little family secret?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, my mom dated Tom Selleck right before she and my dad tied the knot. A lot of
Well,
people have a lot of people have made that observation throughout the years, and you know, I don't know.
I mean,
Should I call him? Should I maybe reach out to Tom or
if you want to, but like he's getting up there. He uh, might not
Yeah,
respond.
Tom
I
Selleck.
don't
I
know.
need more of a mustache. Has he ever been
He,
married? I've kind of thought like some. Is he like? What's his marital status? Is he just interesting
well,
guy? He's a Republican too, isn't he?
I don't think he is. Well, he might be, to be honest, but I don't picture Tom Selleck as being a
I
Republican.
yeah. Well, and what is it then? Just kind of moreover, what is it about the entertainment industry, music, and in movies and so forth, where it's almost like a prerequisite? You have to be a flaming libtard just in order to have a career.
I think it has to more or less be the fact that it's being ran by homosexuals.
Well,
Hollywood is ran by either feminists or Hollywood homosexuals.
the Jewish Freemasons. It was founded
That
by Jewish Freemasons.
that was back in the day.
Well,
You know what I mean?
well, it still
Like,
is though. I mean, come on.
nah. I mean, you could say that all the way up until maybe the late like 90s, and then into a little bit of the 2000s. But these days, it's just turned into this millennial freaking garbage dump of. I mean, movies aren't even as good as what they used to be anymore. You know what I mean?
Hasn't Chinese money, Chinese so-called communists, which really they're fascists, as far as I can tell. Give me a break. It's a joke to refer to what China has as it never was communist in any way. It's just was a something a pipe dream in order to, I guess, inspire the troops and keep them, I guess keep them on the right track so that they wouldn't turn on their political masters. But it's completely fascist. That aside, however, when I say fascist, I just mean the political machinery and the corporate world. This is how Mussolini viewed it, and I think for me it's easiest to keep it within that context. Politics and the world of business and corporations married, joined at the hip, and
Yeah,
there you
I,
go.
fa- I found your information for Tom Selleck.
Yeah. By the way, okay, okay. Am I then his illegitimate, long lost bastard love child? What do you think?
It depends on who your mother is now. First of all, before I say anything, Tom Selleck is an independent voter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, second of all, his wife was Jacqueline Ray. I
How
have
old
no
is he
clue.
now? Like 82?
He's 145.
Yeah, come on.
He was born in January the 9th, 1945, and he is 80
Huh,
years
he's
old
80 years
now.
old. That's right. Yeah.
He isn't. I don't know if he could use the internet though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to, you can get them on here. An independent wouldn't be all that bad for you because that means they're not too conservative. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Uh,
Yeah.
okay, so that's fine. By the way, I'm pulling your wooden leg when it comes to the whole business of, my mother having some love affair with a guy back in the day. Nothing of the sort ever took place, as far as I know. And
Was
that's the first I've ever heard. Is like, hey man, you look like Tom Selleck. You know what I've heard in the past before is like back in the day was Val Kilmer and who the hell else was the other one? Russell Crowe.
wow.
Yeah,
I,
man. It's like and here in Korea, it's like, oh, you Hollywood movie actor. Oh, you Hollywood movie star. Oh, very, very so handsome, handsome man, handsome boy. So I haven't heard that for a while actually. Not enough hair, so to be all that attractive these days. So, but actually, I shaved it recently in case people are wondering too. It was a way of kind of showing my displeasure for a few things taking place here on the domestic front. But fear, ignorance, and greed. People seeing here with the screen share. I think we've got it up in place. Hopefully, FIGGed. That's our little acronym. It's all figged up. Fear, ignorance, greed. FIGGed. And that's the state of the world, frankly. And you can even look at it with the context of just thinking the other day, realizing it's like the Garden of Eden. What was the first thing that the Adam and Eve supposedly did when, like, they became self-conscious, right, with their nakedness. So
you know what the first thing they did was. I mean, everybody. You talk all the shit you want, okay,
oh,
but
they banged, I guess.
Yeah, you know what happened, dude. Nobody,
Changing bodily fluids.
you getting it on, dude. They're
But
like,
he wasn't, or she wasn't even his first wife. Apparently, there was somebody else that a lot of people they don't know about.
Lilith,
Yeah,
Lilith.
but that's kept. That I never even heard about that to my university days.
Hmm.
Can you imagine the number of people out there that with this occulted knowledge, it's kept hidden, out of
Hmm.
sight, out of mind. Things like the Nephilim and all kinds of interesting things. So, and the way it's all been kind of muddied, watered down. Even a big thing recently, a lot of people talking about the Schofield Bible, thank God. And once again, guess who? The Rothschild crime family. Their hand in that, their impact in shaping uh the financing, basically, that project, and how it all helped to fuel the rise of political Zionism, something
Wait,
that was a very elitist, I guess, sort of minority pipe dream for the longest time. So there was the hence the need for a Holocaust. That it was without which there never would have been an Israel. You just look at things within a broader geopolitical sense. And
and a lot of that though, you gotta step back and look at history too, because it's like we were talking about this stuff on getting a lot of static there.
oh, really? Through here?
Yeah, yeah.
Geez, I don't know, man. Looks good
There,
here.
there you go. It's straightened out.
I
It's
see.
straight.
Okay. Hmm.
But I've been doing a lot of research on my ancient mysteries stuff, and I was even talking to Mr. Robot about this stuff. Okay, and on Mind's Roundtable, for me back in like before the BCs or the 80s, but people in the BC are they everybody makes them out to be ignorant and stuff like that. But from what I'm finding out, they were very educated and they knew about other religions and they knew what was going on in their world. You know what I mean? Like in their history, they knew what their history was. You could tell by the writings. But for some reason, after the freaking Christian church came about, it seemed like a lot of this history that freaking everybody at one time knew about and these different cultures that everybody knew about started disappearing. The information was just going away.
Tartaria?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see it in the writings. You can literally, if you really get into it, you can see it in the writings, and it started right around the time the Christian religion began.
Whitewashing the history books. Or,
Yeah.
after you've burnt them all.
Uh, and like I went through Eusebius of Caesarea's um, argument against the pagans, and I checked out a lot of the stuff that he was referring to, and he made him out to be some really horrible people. But from what I've found out about it, a lot of the people he was talking about actually were pretty positive thinkers. They were really good philosophers. They're very intelligent. They
Well,
didn't,
do you know what the word pagan actually means?
you know, what
You don't know? Well,
country bumpkin.
yeah, exactly. That's right. And
Yep.
have you ever stopped to look at the word propaganda?
You were
Well,
telling me that before.
a lot of
It
people,
has pagan in it.
yeah, a lot of people don't like stop to do these sort of things, but I would encourage everyone out there to more actively engage in wordplay. Just just deconstructing, starting with the prefix, suffix, and then whatever you have left sandwiched in between, and see because and asking yourself, well, who came up with these words? Who had the power, the ability, power itself just meaning to be able to, pouvoir en français. So who had the power, the ability to uh, basically to have the language launched and produced and find its way into mass circulation, like in a viral, so they would take off in a viral sense. The same way that we see with the internet today. It's basically what Marx talked about within the context, the means of mental reproduction.
Yeah.
I always can't help but come back to what he said because he made a great point. As much as of a devil the man actually was, that he did even sometimes Satan, speaks certain truths. He's pointing out the obvious. So yeah, who controls not only the means of economic reproduction but also mental? And what was it with Marx, anyways? One of my main beefs with the guy, one of the many, is why did how much of a critique and analysis for Das Kapital? Well, that's wonderful. How much of an analysis and critique did he did of Europe's banking system and
No,
monetary policy?
good story. That's a good topic to bring up because a lot of people don't know about his later years in life. Okay, they know about when he was young and he was rebellious and
Mm-hmm.
speaking about his beliefs and stuff, but people don't understand that by the end of his life, he had grown out of all that stuff. And you mostly saw him sitting in coffee shops debating with intellectuals over the economy and stock markets and everything. And he actually developed a socialist um, economy that a lot of people in Europe today are freaking trying to use as their model.
Uh-huh. Is that a good thing or not?
Anything that Marx came out with, I consider as a bad thing. I
Well, but
don't.
hang on. But no, he made certain observations though as well, such as just the question of who controls the means to mental reproduction. Why is that a bad thing? By asking, trying to
Well,
draw the public's attention to, like, have you thought about this? Like, it seems vaguely important.
well, see, while he draws that question, he also shows himself. He's actually doing what is referred to as mental masturbation.
Ah,
Okay.
how so?
Uh, yeah. Well, socialism rotates around the idea of creating a freaking bureaucracy about everything. Okay. So not only does the economy need to be regulated, but everything about the economy needs to be regulated. Then after they move from the economy, they move to the individuals. The individuals have to be regulated as well. So all of a sudden, they have to start compartmentalizing and start putting people in this area who belong in this area, people who belong in this area over here, they put them in this area. And that's what they're doing. They're categorizing. Okay. And then they're creating social bureaucracy to manage each of these groups. See what I
Okay,
mean?
sure. Yeah, and
Yeah.
what did he propose? It was a revolution of the proletariat, or some ruling elect that would oversee, I forget the actual terminology he used, but that they would seize power essentially. And let's not forget, the young Karl Marx, he was initially an anarchist, philosophical anarchist, interestingly. And went head to head with Bakunin, I think, the
Yeah.
famous anarchist Bakunin. So, and I'd like to look more into Bakunin, what he had to offer, but I just don't think that mm, uh, anarchism, it's problematic, as is any full blown statist type philosophy or religion, because
Yeah.
of the way that the individual is completely erased, eliminated,
Right.
from having any role, or autonomy really is the word, which means itself self-naming. Propaganda, we almost forgot to flesh that one out for folks, but yeah, look at it, people. Propaganda. Propaganda. All I'm going to say to that is that all roads lead to Rome. And as Jolly Roger Hansen, who we have on board here as the co-host, friend, and commentator, fellow longtime pirate
The
matey.
poop deck. Hello
Pardon?
from the poop deck.
Oh, I would, yeah, TMI, man. Seriously, it's like, a commercial break coming up here. Maybe that would be more appropriate, opportune moment. But the pagan is the country dweller, the country bumpkin, the rube, the mark, right? So, and who controls the means to mental reproduction? Language. The Bible itself. Speaking of language, I mean, one of the few books that was even in circulation for the longest time, until, and even during the period of the the production of the printing press, that many of the sermons, all church services, were they not, to a large extent, conducted in Latin. And most of the parishioners, the pagans, farmers, and country bumpkins, do you really think that they had much of a grasp on the
I think
Latin
they had more.
language?
I think they had more of a grasp on what was going on than what modern religions do. From
Yeah,
what I've been pulling up.
yeah, but did they understand? Were they proficient and fluent in Latin to any degree?
Um,
I don't think
Latin
so. Hardly. Maybe a few words here and there.
Latin comes from Indo-European, and
Right.
Indo-European is all pagan.
Well,
So
Sanskrit.
yeah, well, Sanskrit's Indo-European
That's what
too.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
Sanskrit apparently is like one of the oldest languages on the
right.
planet, if not the ultimate root. That can be traced so many. And I've found, as you may have heard me touch upon here, without really mapping it out in any detail, but the parallels that I've found time and again, these patterns, uh, between from Sanskrit root words to English on the one hand and Korean on the other. That all three, you can easily find parallels in ways that terms like uh, para is one. Gate para. Sam gate. That means gate, by the way, gate, or
Hmm.
door. Bodhi svaha, like bodhisattva, and svaha is like amen, so be it, kind of deal. So, uh, but go in Korean, and it's also Sanskrit, ga, ga, go. So it's just the one vowel. Just, instead of an A, it's an E. And over time, so much language, it doesn't, it's not rigid. It doesn't, it's not like it's cemented. It's just very much in flux,
Hmm. My,
endlessly transforming itself. But the question is, who has the impact? Who has the ability, the power, once again, to do, to make this magic happen? And we'd like to think, from what we're doing here with our little pirate gig, ultimately we'd like to have an impact, most definitely, mostly from the standpoint of slogans and little catchphrases and concepts, the campaigns that we've launched with Operation Secret Santa, and the fun that we've had. Everything's all figged up once again: fear, ignorance, and greed. The techno kraken. When's that going to be? When's that going to take off and become a little more viral? Hashtag Technokraken. We've got our swag in place, merchandise. Who knows? Is that why is Sonia sick right now? Anyways, our chief, uh, merchandise director. What happened to her exactly? I'm still not clear whether it's related to her smoking and drinking habits to whatever extent they may
I hope
occur.
she's
I would
okay.
agree. But, pardon me?
I hope she's okay. I was like, I talked to her twice, but other than that, she hasn't really been too talkative.
Too vocal. Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're going to cut away to break here momentarily, but before we do, let's just get up on screen some of the. Let's see how this looks as we do this here. Not so bad, I suppose. Romania, we touched on that, and of course, yeah, reaction channels are so frickin' annoying. That was just for
Yeah.
you, of course. But they are like every time I see them pop up on our YouTube, it's like, oh, do not suggest, delete, get this off of my feed. I don't want to see this
Yeah.
crap. It's just such, what is it, pandering? Well, what do they do? Like they're totally, that's exactly like YouTube is like, yeah, this is what we want. We want more of you mice, you trained monkeys out there doing this kind of crap and heavily monetized, and a lot of people drawn to it, wasting their time watching people react to something that they themselves should already. Why haven't they? Why don't you, whoever it is, or we, you could say, why don't we just take the time to experience, learn a little bit more about these things ourselves rather than rely on others, what others are telling us. Once again, all goes back to the autonomy approach and way of looking at it. That's part of it, at least. You could do a whole essay on
You
this
keep
reaction
forgetting
business
to.
phenomenon.
You forgot to mention the most annoying part about it,
What's
though.
that?
It's after you say delete, you don't want to watch it. What do? They put the shit right back up on your channel again.
Yeah. Well, just
That's
more,
more
more,
annoying than
more
it
reaction
popping
feed.
up the
That's
first
right.
time.
Yeah, yeah, because they just keep another reaction channel. I'd actually take pleasure in telling them to go away. It's like go away, go away. But it's a real cottage industry, isn't it? The reaction
Yeah.
crap. So, anyways, holy shite, Jaffe. I pictured you as a young Asian boy with black hair. Good to put a face to the voice. I bet you that really turned him on too, didn't it? It was like a young Asian boy, black hair.
Robot likes young Asian boys.
He's all about young Asian boys, is he?
Yeah.
What? I don't have a. Do I sound like a young Asian boy? I mean,
I can't wait until 2 Fridays from now, me and him, and hopefully Dan's going to be doing the thing on the ball cycle.
Bale.
Or, yeah, well, I call him ball.
Yeah, well, I don't
But,
know. Yeah,
yeah.
I think. I think actually Brian Rue pronounces it the same way. Actually, no, Robert Morningstar pronounces it ball, but for
Bill.
me, it's Bale.
I'm pretty sure Bill is the proper way, but I,
Jump
I'm
down,
not.
turn around, pick a bale of cotton. Jump down, turn around, pick a bale of hay. Got me thinking about that the other day, So, but yeah, cannonball, right?
Well,
Cannonball.
you know about the Bell cycles or cycle, right?
Pew pew.
The writings about Bell and in the battle that he had with I forgot the name of the god, the
S-
Canaanite
Well,
god.
yeah, it's all goes back to ancient Phoenicia and Canaan,
Yeah,
where all this genocide. And I don't know, why is it that so many people seem to struggle? All the Israeli apologists for Netanyahu and his radical right wing Likud coalition. It's like, well, I don't know. It's not a genocide. How could this be a genocide? We're just defending ourselves. It's like Oh my God! But anyways, the region of the world is soaked in blood, and it's unfortunate because we were just talking about this with one of an Iranian actually commentator that showed up in Robert's the Morning Star report, the edition of the show that he put together last night. That's of course, if people are wondering, via RBN and Revolution Radio, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday nights is where I drop in as co-host. But the whole way that the region of the world people coexisted quite peaceably under for quite a long time at various points throughout history, much more peaceable. And his take on things, we'll come back to your earlier point here in just a second before we go to break. I'm sorry to cut you off. It's just kind of, it's like, hey, that's what happens when you're on somebody else's show. Uh, if it's your stream or somebody else's, what's they've put together, then I'm more careful to just sort of dial it down a little bit, put a sock in it, as it were. But
You
otherwise,
never cut me off, dude.
sorry, no, no, I kind of did, but just sorry, just let me finish this thought, because with if the Shah, not it was the Shah, I guess, we talked about the Shah, and I'd heard that in Iran, because I basically Israel and Iran, we it's like endlessly Israel, I gotta get in Iran, gotta, oh my God, I gotta get nukes. They never talk about Israel's nukes, of course, right? Not a peep, not a peep. It's like it doesn't do anything for corporate media's legitimacy at all. Same with the way so much of the science is politicized. uh it's a farce. It's a total farce. Everything that comes out of mainstream media, virtually everything that I can think of as far as big major issues are concerned, we're being completely, I don't know if gaslit is the right word, but uh false narratives, yeah, total total false narratives, one after the next, and the way that they frame things, it's totally just ridiculous and off kilter and skewed, and it's in order to serve a particular elitist, big money, usually big pharma agenda, but with big military too. Obviously, big arms in the instance example of, I suppose, geopolitically, Iran and Israel. But with our Persian friend, we got into the whole Indo-European Aryan business, the Persians and Darius and Alexander and ancient history and whatnot, and international relations throughout the years. And his take on things, though, because I asked him the question, if things were to change, that the Islamic fundamentalism that currently dominates the region were to, uh, it was to no longer be the case, that a more, he envisioned something where you have like a new Shah essentially like installed or something along those lines. Similar to days of old. I my sense was that the Shah, had his secret police were, they kept quite busy in similar to how it was here in South Korea not so long ago, and could have easily reared its ugly head once again with just a widespread violation of human rights and the implementation of martial law. But under the Shah, Robert Morningstar took exception to this, and and our Persian friend to some degree as well. He wasn't as adamant or vociferous, uh, but the Shah was not all that, was not all that benevolent as some may want to make him out to be. It's my take on things at present. Although definitely a better uh a more desirable alternative than to what has been the case since the Islamic Revolution of, under the Ayatollah Khomeini in 1980, 81. But if things were to change and become more, modernized, dare I say, progressive, that's a loaded term. All this endless the language games, and the wordplay, and the semantics of what people mean using these terms, and how they're politicized and promulgated and promoted. That's what I really get a kick out of, and quite leery of, definitely. But with that being the case, yeah, that thing, international relations would be more amicable if people like Tulsi Gabbard has for a long time spoken out against regime change, and for good reason, because it benefits no one, it seems, other than the major vested interest, the military industrial complex, and their vested interests, clearly. So if the people can do it on their own, then I suppose all the power to them. It's problematic, of course, but um, that would be great to see. But going back to your initial point of ancient, Baal and the Palestine, Jesus, the Palestinian, and the Semitic region, of course,
Mhm.
so on and so forth. What did you have to say? You're gonna be covering that here in just a couple of weeks with Mr. Robot. Is that right?
Yeah, me, Mr. Robot, and hopefully Tan, if he wants to come in on it, because me and Tan did the Amorites last
Oh
year
yeah.
on the last episode for that
How about
season. And
Amalek? Remember how it was? Do you remember how Jerkface? Matt. This psychopath. I wish I had something good to say about the guy. Netanyahu uh, called out the Amalek. He's actually referencing the War Scroll out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So it's like he's appealing to the deeply religious people within the Jewish community, and that was
yeah,
really quite something. But the Amalek and waging war on the Amalek, it's like the other, right? The kafir, as the Muslims would say, or the infidels, the you might as well just say the Gentile goy. It's like, or whoever, the other. It's like, got to wipe them out, have them eliminated. So now, what? So who did you say, the Amorites? What if
yeah,
what
the
if
Amorites.
what if the
They
will you cover the what of the Amalek?
no,
will
the
you
Amorites.
Yeah, I know, but will you also take time? I would love to hear.
Yeah,
That's something to the Amalek,
I'd love to check them out
Dead
and
Sea
go through it
Scrolls,
and
the
everything.
War Scrolls. That'd
Now
be great.
I've played around with some of the Dead Sea Scrolls and
Hmm.
everything, and I know what you're talking about there with
Right.
them. They were the people you're referring to were really really extremists when it came to the Jewish faith. They hid themselves out in mountains
Yep.
and in caverns and stuff like that, and they were actually the last ones to fall during the Jewish Revolution. So
You're
that
talking about
is,
the Masada.
yeah, yep.
What was that?
That's
What was that called? The that was like a fortress of Masada, I guess. Is that right?
yeah. I have the notes on it and everything, but I'd have to pull them all up. It's actually a pretty interesting. It's actually really really interesting what you're talking about
It,
right there. That's then that takes you into esoterics, into the esoterics, the real esoterics that goes all the way back to the time of those people, and it talks about the mix between Egyptian and Jewish language, and also how the Jewish incorporated a lot of the pagan beliefs in order to incorporate pagans into their cults.
Wait a minute.
Stuff
What was that last point you just made?
in this region, near what would be Gaza, okay, and Petra in that area, there's evidence that's being presented by archaeologists that show freaking that the Jews in that area were incorporating pagan belief systems into the Jewish faith. You know,
Yeah,
in order
it's
to,
called religious syncretism.
right, exactly. And that's something that they to this day refuse to accept, is the fact that they come from pagan backgrounds, and that's where they originally came from,
right?
Not from the Garden of Eden.
Roger.
That was something that
how can you be talking and coffee at the same time, Roger? I don't understand.
that's Robert.
Robert Morningstar. Well, how about that? Join us here right as we're cutting away to commercial break. Robert, was there anything really critical that you're hoping to
bring you an update on the solar winds. So why don't we do that after the break?
That sounds like a plan. Did you just wrap up one of your epic chess matches?
No, actually, I was watching probably the best interview, I think, most comprehensive interview that I've ever given. It was 2 years ago, before I met James Files, and covered everything: the secret space program, the UFOs, the John F. Kennedy assassination, my mystical experiences that led me to all these discoveries. So I put it in the chat. I didn't know if I'd drop in tonight. You know, I've had like 5 straight days of radio interviews.
Yeah.
One of them was 6 hours. So anyway, I'm here, and I'll just give you a brief update on what we discussed last night. And thanks a lot for that program. It's going to be historic, with Dr. Brandenburg and
Dr. Max?
Dr. Max Manelli, yes.
We were
Max.
just talking about Dr. Max and Brian and the show that we did yesterday with you. We've referenced that a few times now. That's right.
Well, I hope to put it on YouTube, not YouTube necessarily, but Rumble soon. I'm going to edit a little bit and put in some more photographs, but I'll bring you up to date in a couple of minutes, okay?
Good.
After the break.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds wonderful. So thank you for dropping in, and now is indeed an opportune time. The seasoned pirate mateys knowing exactly what to do. They've muted out on their own accord, and leading us now to try and track down, if we can, the promotional blurbs that we have here running in support of Red Dragon Herbs and Teas, CannaSense Cannabis Collective. Before we do that, big shout out to Zane Ivy. Join us here via South Korea, longtime fellow expat. Bales of hay are kind of rare nowadays. It's all rolls. Well, I guess so. I stacked bales a number of years ago back in Canada. It was a lot of fun, actually. It was hard work, but good, honest, farm work, man. Helped to make me a little bit of a country boy. Spent time tree planting, playing hockey, hunting out in the bush from time to time. I mean, what do most young Canadian, red-blooded Canadian guys do? Drinking, chasing women, partying a little too hard from time to time. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, and the university life, of course, too. All all put into one. So ultimately helping to produce what has become the full package product here via this end of things. So, homo Zane, who you calling a homo? Globo home. Not sure what that is referencing. It's a mm, leaves a little to the leaves some to the imagination, or at least the opportunity for us to tackle that and deconstruct. Maybe it's an anagram. We can break down, have a little fun with. So, add to one of our coffee cup or T-shirt items that we offer at very affordable rates. People check out the show description links and be able to get their hands on the top quality swag we've got up for grabs. In Exodus 17:8 and Deuteronomy 25:17, Israel is commanded to destruction of Amalek. Ah. Yeah, it's interesting to note as well too. Speaking of Robert, the Bible here, and everything that transpired yesterday on the show, that well, there's a lot to be said. Well, the New and the Old Testament in particular, that really it stumps a lot of people. I like I once had someone who's pretty serious. They self-identify as Christian, but I really wonder. I've watched them now cheerleading, for Israel. Speaking of the Schofield Bible, and all that it's done in corrupting the minds of so many, unfortunately. You know, Christian Zionism or Judeo-Christian. A lot of people talking these days about the oxymoronic nature of those little catchphrases. So definitely worth reflecting upon. So it's Torah, not just the War Scrolls. Okay, well, how about that? So yeah, the Amalek finding its way into the War Scrolls, the part of the Dead Sea Scroll cache, a lot of which, including what was later, no, actually earlier uncovered, I believe, the Gnostic Gospels 45, and then later 47. A lot happening in 47. Death of Crowley, the founding of Israel right around that time as well, and Roswell. It's a big year. So the founding of the national security state, some important legislation maybe Robert can help us out with on the other end of things. National security state legislation led to so many of the problems that now it seems Trump to some extent is working on. Well, you remember JFK's vow to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. Do my best to paraphrase, but uh, there we go. We'll see how this all plays out over time. So every day definitely it is a ride, though, isn't it? It's quite a trip and a real, the world as it is and life. You just never know what surprises are going to emerge. So stay tuned, folks. Red Dragon Herbs and Teas. With any order of $25 or more, you immediately receive a 10% discount. Let Ryan know one of two things, either simply Pirate Radio or Pirate Code. Meanwhile, with respect to the CannaSense Cannabis Collective end of things, 5813 is our referral number that you'll want to take note of. 5813. They've got a great selection of top quality health related items available, and we strongly encourage people out there listening to support both Red Dragon Herbs and Teas and CannaSense Cannabis Collective. We'll be back in just a flash here, folks. Do not change that radio station dial or touch that computer mouse.
Medical cannabis is now legal by telemedicine. Get the medicine you need by getting reviewed for a medical cannabis card. Contactless appointments available at CannaSense.com. For as low as $39, you can get reviewed for a medical cannabis card. That's CannaSense.com for a licensed medical cannabis doctor review. CannaSense.com has all the information you need to get connected with a doctor for a $39 medical cannabis appointment. CannaSense.com. CannaSense is common sense.
Catering exclusively to the Des Moines, Iowa area and beyond, Red Dragon Herbs and Teas is a small, family-owned business dedicated to the creation of only the finest quality artisan herbal tea blends. Drawing upon many of the world's most richly established customs and traditions, Red Dragon Herb's mission is about more than just getting their products out to the market. They also strive to help educate their customers on the wider benefits, history, and folklore of all their plants. Of course, any seasoned pirate knows when they're fixin' to tango with the Kraken, you best be powered up with at least one of the finest select quality premium items freely offered via Red Dragon Herbs and Teas wide inventory. Choosing from any of their caffeine-free headache relief or rest and relaxation blends, history has proven their products among the best sources of scurvy prevention and vitamin supplementation. Red Dragon Herbs and Teas, bringing you guaranteed homegrown health relief.
Ahoy, Captain Sinclair. I hope your ship is well. That only Jolly Roger has been through hell. Yo ho, on an adventure we go. In the deep digital high seas, we travel with ease until we reach the outside.
All right, well, a little bit in the way of a techno snafu there, but I think hopefully people heard most of what we had to offer as far as the Red Dragon Herbs and Teas, bringing you guaranteed homegrown health relief. We've done that now the past couple of weeks. We'll have to look into why exactly that is. It's partly related to the VLC social media player, though. That's what it would seem. So whatever the case, we are back for the final segment remaining here to this week's live streaming edition of World Pirate Radio News, show number 309. We've got Robert Morningstar on board with us here out of Manhattan, USA, along with Roger Hansen, someone who calls himself a native of West Frankfort, Illinois. In the Peanut Gallery, Mr. Robot, along with Karma Love and Zane Ivy, have all been very active, so we appreciate their engagement and contributions. Of course, keep it coming, folks. We're always happy to do what we can to bring you into the conversation. Of course, once again, we do not have any super chat capacity or functionality here, unfortunately, given the fact that YouTube, as soon as we managed to make that 1,000-member subscriber threshold, they cut us off at the knees, immediately telling us that we were not eligible for monetization, essentially delegitimized, really. And, you know, I don't know, there's nothing good you can say about that, unfortunately, other than one could perhaps choose to wear it as something of a badge of honor. But whatever the case, we are here once again. Robert, you had a few things you were hoping to draw to our listeners' attention. We do have our basic talking points in place. I'm not sure we've got to most of them so far, but a few others.
Well, I'm going to be short. I'm going to be short. I just want to say thank you, Jaffe, for introducing me to Brian Rue and then setting up last night's show with him, which led to a second historic broadcast with Dr. John Brandenburg. And the point is that the Athena lander touched down on the moon on March 6th and landed askewed. This company has put another one 2 years ago, and it landed askewed too. So, but the more important thing is that Athena took photographs from orbit. And in one of those photographs, I found a very unusual thing. It was a rainbow. And so I'd like to show it to you right now and the others. But it's I made an amazing discovery. We've all heard of the solar wind, but no one's ever seen it. Through computer graphics and enhancement and my keen eye, my love of rainbows. So my keen eye and my love of rainbows, I was intrigued by a photograph I'm going to show you. And it was, let me just pop over to this other software here. Okay. It was this photograph. And this photograph taken from orbit by Athena, who is the sister of Apollo. It's really cool, brother and sisters, moon gods, you know. So my attention was drawn by this rainbow here at the bottom. And I was very curious, you know, because it's not coming from this spacecraft itself. Where it's coming from is something on the moon. I'm one of those people that are called rainbow hunters. It's a science. To see a rainbow, you have to have the right atmospheric conditions and the correct angle to the sun, which is about 43 to 47 degrees. And if you know that, rainbow hunters, when the atmosphere is the right composition, will drive around looking for that 43 to 47 degree angle to find the rainbow. So this intrigued me. So what I did was, again, curiosity got me, and I said, oh, you know, I'm going to see what's causing that. And so I did an enhancement of it, and what resulted was this photograph. And this result is that interference patterns from that rainbow. What's causing that rainbow is lunar dust, elevated. The moon, one of the secrets of the moon that NASA wants to hide forever, is that it has an exosphere of lunar dust particles, which are basically glass, mirror-like fragments, microdust, that's been elevated to an altitude, according to John Brandenburg, 100 kilometers. I said to him, John, you know, this satellite's up 100 miles, 60 miles, 100 miles above the moon. Does the moon dust rise that high? He said, sure. It goes to 100 kilometers and more. So what I've discovered is that the interference, you see the rainbow has disappeared, but it's this white streak down here. The same composition of the exosphere that is creating this single rainbow here is creating an interference pattern interacting with the solar wind, and revealed it. And as you were there last night discussing this with Dr. Brandenburg, he's the one who said, my God, that could be the solar wind, because he agrees with me that it's not a lens flare. And then we've had 3 conversations about it, and we've concluded that these are tubes. They're not just lines or streaks. They're actually tubes of plasma following magnetic flux lines. So I'm excited to say that today I contacted my friends at the London Times, and asked him to look at these photos and send them to the science editor, because they are the first photographs of the solar wind ever captured. And it's just by serendipity, double serendipity, that the spacecraft was at that ideal angle for that moment and snapped the picture. And the other one is that a rainbow hunter chanced upon it, and curiosity got the best of him, and I was able to bring something forth that nobody's ever seen before.
You're saying between 43 and 47 degrees?
Yeah, the angle between the reflecting surface and the sun, and the viewer has to be about 43 to 47.
And this plasma, maybe the tubes or what have you, something that the sun's rays and how it all breaks down exactly, I'm not sure, but UFOs allegedly have been filmed seemingly draining, absorbing energy in order to what some have speculated is providing fuel for their trial.
I think that drawing it right from the ether or the quantum sea. I want to show you another interesting thing that's also further proof.
Right.
This, if you see the original picture here, we have the first rays at the top. We have the rainbow here, but you look at the spacecraft here, it's just like a black surface, but we know that these things are covered with reflective material that will keep the heat from building up in the craft. Now, the thing that I discovered is that the cosmic rays are being reflected off the side of this craft over here. Which proves, so the interference pattern is that the rainbow or light rising from the moon is interacting with the sunlight coming in and creating the interference pattern, but it's also being projected on the side of the spacecraft here. So in this picture, you can see the same plasma tubes that are visible over here, but they seem to be reversed in a mirrored form.
Has this been found to interfere with any crafts or vehicles' electronics? These probes that have been sent into space?
Some have, but it also interferes with the landings.
Right.
Because a lot of probes have crashed in the last few years. The Israeli one, I think there was another Indian one that crashed. And according to Richard Hoagland, the problem is that these spacecraft are using lasers to determine altitude. And the other ones, the ones that we've landed successfully, were using radar. And the laser, when it points down into this soup of lunar dust, heavily turns, which gives it a false reading as to the exact altitude. And so I'm going to recommend to my friends in the space industry that not to use the lasers. If they're going to the moon, they should use radar, which is very reliable as far as gauging altitude. So that's the update. So I hope to have a breakthrough in this through the London Times, which has he's been very good to me and my friends regarding JFK assassination.
Yeah,
they've treated it very seriously and respectfully.
James Files, that whole angle.
Yeah, they've written up James Files twice, on November 23rd of 2023 on the 60th anniversary, and then they followed up this year again, because the JFK files are hot stuff. You know, everybody's waiting for them, and the London Times is one of those. It's the premier newspaper in the world, as I understand.
Yeah, and so
much better than the New York Slime, which I would not buy ever again.
The claim, of course, being that Files was himself the grassy knoll shooter, someone that you've interviewed on several occasions, and
Many.
they've shown a keen interest in, as you've alluded to here, obviously. So, what though of the JFK files, RFK and MLK, and the UFO end of things? Are we going to be seeing, and Epstein? Are we going to be seeing any progress on this front, or is it just a lot of? Yeah.
There is. Listen, you wouldn't believe it, but there are certain people in the Senate and the Congress that don't want them released, and they're working against.
Well, imagine that. How shocking!
But we know who one of them is. A principal one is, of all people, Senator Tom Cotton. But I'm not surprised because he is a byproduct of the military-industrial complex. You know, he was an Army officer and served, dutifully, and he's part of the swamp, as I see it. He supports the war in Ukraine. He wants to see the money keep cranking. He wants to see the war machine still producing merchandise for the merchants of death. So that's one of them, and there are others because they know. This exposes the entire government, and especially exposes the Democrat Party for having been hand in glove with the cover-up. So that's that. Mm-hmm.
And we're back online. There we go.
So all of these things there's a convergence point,
Mm-hmm.
as it's happening.
Tom Cotton,
Trump, Elon Musk, bringing daylight, sunlight.
Auditing of Fort Knox too. I was just thinking about that this morning. We're going to see any.
We didn't get the details of that, but they're saying that they fooled Trump, is what I saw. There's no gold in Fort Knox, so he's getting replenished. Very interesting. I saw that you have a new, I don't know, it's a weird system you have in Canada, with the Parliament.
Oh, God.
Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister, resigned, and because you have a majority of the Labour Party, the new leader of the Labour Party actually becomes Prime Minister without
that's right. As if Canada's political environment wasn't already enough of a clown show. Now they've installed a carny. We've actually literally have a carny running the country.
Yeah, carny. Yeah, maybe people don't know the meaning of the slang meaning of carny.
Well, like I said, it's a clown, as if it wasn't already enough of a clown show. A circus
carnival worker. A carny was a carnival worker. That's the lingo, circus lingo.
I've got nothing against carnies either. We have a good friend here, David Charles, who now, for whatever reason, he seems to take it as an affront, and he worked as a carnival insider for quite a few years, so he's seen it all from top to bottom. But I don't know why that would be. Why? Because I've always thought that carny was just, as you say, slang for someone who was a carnival worker. It wasn't meant as any.
Well, I'm glad you said that. The next thing I was going to say to you is it is a homonym with the Spanish word carne,
flesh,
meat.
Yeah,
raw meat, carne.
Yeah. Well, so a lot of carnies too also got clumped up with the old Jewish or gypsy kind of reputation.
Meatheads.
Oh yeah, well the wandering entertainment and theater is a big part of a sect of Judaism that few people really study. Everyone studies the Pharisees, but the Sadducees were Jews too, but they were more inclined to get involved in magic and evolved to be entrepreneurs, showmen.
Oh, good for them.
Magicians. Well, this is what point I'm making is that the Pharisees are the ones who rule Israel, the Sadducees are the ones who settled in Hollywood and became masters of illusion. The
Yes.
magicians of stage, theater, and cell. So there is where the magic element led the Sadducees through profit, through entertainment and deception. Because
yeah, sure,
you know,
misdirection.
you know the term, the willing suspension of disbelief.
Yes, indeed.
From
That's right.
Henry James, right? He said for a novel to succeed, that the reader has to suspend disbelief.
That's right. Sure.
The same applies to going to the theater or a movie or any form of entertainment. So they can bank on that willing suspension of disbelief to program us using magical symbols, magic and overt, you know, spells. That's what they're
right. That's right.
Cast spells on us, and in the process condition us to be receptive to the agenda that they are unfolding.
Indeed, it's all part of the programming, isn't it? And they're very powerful. Historically, they've proven themselves. We were just talking about how Hollywood was founded by Jewish Freemasons.
Well, that's the
Louis
point.
Louis B. Mayer. Who else? Who were the families? The big families. Louis B. Mayer, the
Golden Mayer, Warner.
Yeah, all of them Jewish Freemasons.
Warner Brothers changed their name from an Eastern European name. So the point is that black magic rules Hollywood, and it's become so overt and explicit.
Have you guys ever done any research into JFK's father and what he had to go through when he made his career in Hollywood?
I don't know what he went through. I know that he is the K in RKO Pictures, and that he was producing. When you look at RKO Pictures compared to the others, like film noir, the RKO Pictures are often heroic, very inspiring, musical, Christian, very Irish. James Cagney, for example, superstar in RKO movies. And so they were promoting the Irish Catholic world view or values, as opposed to the WASPs and the Sadducees.
And then Howard Hughes, of course, for the longest time, was a real mover and shaker.
He made an amazing movie, a whole swing.
Hell's Angels.
Yeah, I think he produced Wings, the first movie, won an Academy Award in 1927.
Yeah. Do you know that
the story of it is incredible, because he wanted to have he really, if you see Wings, you will see dogfights, incredible dogfights.
Right.
And they're very effective because they're maneuvering in the clouds. But he chose, I think he filmed the movie in Texas. And there was no rain, there were no clouds, and he had to wait for months and months and months for the weather to be right to shoot the film.
Well,
that
wasn't very bright. The technology, he should have known that the technology even at that time existed for man was producing artificial rain. The movie with Burt Lancaster, Hatfield was the rainmaker. I forget his first name now, but that goes back. Do you know where that was, Robert? Where it was at New Mexico or Arizona, where he caused these flash floods to occur?
I don't know the details of that. The one that I do know is Wilhelm Reich. Wilhelm Reich had the Cloudbuster. He had that machine.
Orgone?
It was an orgone machine that materialized clouds and brought rain. And you know what I realized 60 years later? That Walt Disney did a mockery of Wilhelm Reich in two movies, in Flubber and Son of Flubber. He was caricaturing Wilhelm Reich.
Spoofing, I gotta say.
With Fred, spoofing him, with Fred McMurray playing this goofy professor who's making these inventions, like Flubber was that super rubber. They put it on the sneakers, and the basketball players could bound. Superbound.
Yeah.
The second movie was very revelatory. In that one, he makes a machine to make rain. And he makes rain, but first it's a comedy. He makes rain inside his house. It starts to rain. Then he decides to try it outside, and he does it. But the wave that he sends out to create the rain also breaks all the windows in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So everything, because the wave goes like that.
They hired Hatfield to do this, and this was
Mhm.
like 1915, 1920. It was like prior even to the Depression, and it was so effective that it ended up causing flash floods and actually killing people. And the townsfolk, as you can imagine, were pretty irate, and well, I don't know if they chased him out of town, but he made for the hills probably even before they could do that. I believe with his money in tow. So
Mhm.
yeah, The Rainmaker, Burt Lancaster. It's a hard movie to find, but it is out there.
I
So
saw it many times. I
oh,
saw it many times.
you've seen it many times. So
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It pisses me off to no ends with all of these false narratives. They talk man-made climate change, man, and the way they frame the whole conversation, the narrative. It's completely. It's like how stupid they really think we're dumb. They really think we're stupid, obviously, because what they're doing is they never talk about Tesla technology, HARP, scalar weaponry. And the fact that there was, as an example, just throwing, adding more to fleshing things out here. Do you know, Robert, about the International World Weather Warfare Treaty that was signed in 1977, I guess is when it was ratified in the UN at Geneva. I don't know if you call it multinational agreement and a accord, as it were, treaty. Uh, Basically, under the pretenses, with the understanding that there was technology that existed where it, could be used to as a form of weather warfare. Just
Mhm.
imagine how far the powers that be, that is, have come since that time. That's like what, almost like 50 years ago now, damn near. Moreover, so 50 years ago now, here's the kicker. Not only can you just imagine how much more sophisticated the technology has become, and the U.S. Air Force has talked about, I first heard about this via uh, InfoWars, I guess, Alex Jones and the Air Force owning the weather by 2025. The PDF is out there, people. You can easily
Well, I heard
access it.
in '67. I remember the day that
Operation Popeye, Vietnam.
Lyndon Johnson came out
Right.
and gave a speech about the need to do these experiments and this research and he walked away and he said, "He who rules the weather rules the world."
That's right.
And that's as far back. And then in 1968 is when Tom Bearden found out, Colonel Tom Bearden found out that the Russians were using microwaves to alter the weather in different places and that they were beaming microwave, let's call it rays to get the idea of a straight line, microwave rays over the United States from two different locations, believing that if they intersected the two microwave beams over one spot, the intersection would start to heat the atmosphere there and start to cause deleterious weather effects that would ruin our agriculture because they wanted to make our economy fail. So they attacked agriculture, and their first
Yeah.
experiments were these microwave weapons, and they're called the woodpecker beam because Bearden picked them up.
Right.
And
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. And Lieutenant Colonel Corso, along with who was the cohort the he had on board with him for the Art Bell shows, the high-ranking kind of spook. They talked about that same issue and the fact that there were pilots. There were pilots being sent to penetrate during the Cold War Russian airspace
Mhm.
in across Eastern Europe, and beyond, I guess is how the story goes. And they were lost. A lot of them were lost and never heard from again, and no one ever talked about it either. It was all
Did you
kept.
say pirates?
Yeah,
Is it
yes. And what
different?
it was all part of the woodpecker because they wanted to have some sort of to detect. They wanted to have like a bounce back signal from the Russians, so then they could the military be able to map out, pin down, get a clear sense of what they had, how their defenses, how their defenses were set up in place. I think it was a radar largely that it was based on. Is that right? Something to that context, but
Extremely high frequency microwaves. Yes, radar.
right. So, but just to
They're
finish the
working on
point.
something called over the horizon.
Oh
Over the
yeah,
horizon radar.
what's that?
Because
What
we
did
think
what?
radar. But if it was powerful enough, the wave would, or the other thing they wanted to do was bounce them off the ionosphere.
Well, kind of like what HARP does.
And you know what they also did? They bounced it off lakes, and they caused a lot of cancer in Sweden. There's a lake, Lake Ladoga,
Yeah.
over there by Leningrad. And
Yeah.
the Russians started, again, they wanted to do this experiment on over the horizon radar. So they tried to, when Lake Ladoga, especially when it was frozen, bounced the radar off Lake Ladoga. It would skip off and go up into the ionosphere at a different angle than from Russia, and then bend down over the horizon. And they caused a lot of cancer in Sweden as a result of that.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm a little, these claims with Bearden was making a little dubious. Let me just, I got to stand by while we deal with some audio issues here. Trying to get some links added while we, do what we can to put together and cap off the final segment here to this week's show. Episode number 100, let's get this straight now, 309 of World Pirate Radio News with yours truly, Jaffe Ryder. Robert Morningstar connecting with us via Manhattan, USA, along with out of West Frankfort, Illinois, Roger Johnson. Come again?
You showed a picture of Camille Gibran. Or the
yes. Well, yeah. And that, one of Elvis's favorite. This bloody volume keeps wanting to pop up.
I remember Spike Jones, man. Have you ever seen films of him or
Spike Milligan? But Jackson Brown sang about Spike Jones. I think yes, he sang one of his songs like "Running the Pretender" or something. No, that wasn't it. "Running on Empty." Maybe one of those big tunes that he put together, Spike Jones. The Loadout. Maybe it was the Loadout. Anyways, let me finish the point though earlier. What I was going to say. This is important with the context of this treaty. What Bearden is putting forward. I heard that same crap when I was a kid out in the school in the playground. We're out like in a sports field basically. And this one of my classmates. Hey, did you hear like the Russians? They're targeting with this wild technology, and we're like, I'm not even 10 years old. My dad told me. It's like, oh, okay. Right. So I was like, oh, really? But you know what? The treaty, the way they had it signed, it's like, yeah, this is from one nation to another that they were not, they were being banned, essentially, prohibited from targeting other nations. But as far as your own domestic population, completely fair game. Nothing at all whatsoever. No protections at all. So when you talk about what Bearden had to offer and trying to shift the blame and the focus elsewhere, well, yeah, I can see that, but you know what? I really wonder, like, come on. For me, it's something. What's wrong with this picture? There's something more to things than what most people have any idea. And the fact is, look at the chemtrails right now. Look at the fluoride in the water. Look at the food we have. Look at our the way that big pharma operates, big media, and just endlessly education system, they are all weaponized right down to every last little nanoparticulate we have here with Wi-Fi, as you're well aware, with all the work you and Jill Janan have done in the area of the experimental kill shots. This Dr. Evil character, uh, Charles Lieber out of Harvard, the former largely disgraced head of the biochemistry department out of Harvard. And I mean, it would be great if you could map that one out, as just briefly, the way that they've got. I mean, this a patent that he took out with
A what?
patent regarding how with Wi-Fi and
Oh,
the
yes.
kill shots, and how they with the two working together in tandem. Once you've taken the kill shots, they crank up the Wi-Fi, and it's like, look out, folks, you're in big trouble.
Well, that's the phase we're in now.
Not
This
good
is
for your
the-
health.
This is the period of the mass death unfolding. Canada came out with statistics dating back to 2022, and 83% of the deaths that occurred between June and September were vaccinated people, and
Okay.
the more booster shots they got, the more people died.
Okay, run
So-
back that up one. Just
We're telling everybody that, in my show, from the very beginning, I recognized
sure.
that the mechanism of messenger RNA vaccine is identical to the RNA HIV virus. HIV virus invades the body with a strand of RNA that invades the cell, replicates itself into a second strand, which becomes DNA, that becomes the provirus. And then I see the animation put out by Moderna and Pfizer the first week that they marketed the kill shot. And I look at it and I go, my God, this is identical to AIDS. AIDS invades with a strand of RNA, and they said it's mRNA, messenger RNA. But who the hell knows what message they encrypted into the messenger RNA? But we know to build a factory of spike protein that will continue producing spike protein forever. And we must have saved thousands of people, the ones who listened on my show. Then I had Sean Newland, a PhD from Ireland, who was really great in biochemistry. And he was analyzing all of the constituents and telling people, you're going to die, folks. If you take that vaccine, you're stupid. You're going to die. And he was very assertive and very aggressive. And, he's an angry Irish guy with a lot to be angry about, but a great co-host and a genius that I always appreciate that period, 3 years we did.
What's his name again?
Sean Newland.
Sean Newland, that's right. Yeah, you definitely heard the name. Now, the excess, and those shows can be found in the archives, presumably, dating from what period? 2020.
You mean my show?
Yeah, where he helped the co-host, I guess is what you're saying.
Oh, yes, that would be 2021, 2022 into 2023. So
okay.
2021. When did they release the vaccine? In March of 2021? If I recall correctly.
The kill. Well, yeah, it was the beep. Live streaming through boob tubes.
The shutdown in New York started around March 16th and March 5th. And it was around, they pushed it really hard.
Yeah.
That's the time that Sean came on. It was Andrew and me before that and after that. The three of us worked together for the next year or year and a half. But he always brought something fantastic to the discussion, especially in terms of, he and his group discovered that COVID died in sunlight. And that explained why they kept people off the beaches all around the world. Nobody on the beach in California or Florida or Spain. freaking fascists in Spain were arresting people and taking them to the calaboose for being on the beach because they wanted to prevent people from being exposed to sun because it killed
That's right.
8 minutes of direct sunlight.
Yeah.
Sunlighting would kill the COVID.
I promote sunlight, vitamin D. I've been doing it since the get-go pretty much, along with the business of why is, from the highest levels, with media, the major media outlets, why are they not talking about the natural immunity, and then more broadly the so-called herd way of looking at things? And it's because what they and we got to be careful how we navigate this, because I'm concerned, even though like people like Jimmy Dore and others can get away with just letting it rip these days, it's a double standard, unfortunately, because we're not important enough to they can easily attack us, unfortunately. So, but the Nuremberg Code, the right to informed medical consent, and I was adamant about that. I will remain adamant in my position, and fighting for not only my rights and health, the autonomy, but the right for others to freely choose and decide. That is a fundamental human right. Like, I mean, how much more fundamental can you get? So they tried to to strip all of these to completely rob us of these basic rights, and along with the hijacking of consciousness, once again, the head games that were played, with the endless catapulting of propaganda.
Isn't it interesting that Dr. Vladimir Zelenko discovered that vitamin D and D3 prevented COVID and cured it, and they banned people from the beaches from getting sunshine, which is what produces vitamin D in the body. So trying to prevent the vitamin D being harvested, you might say, or created.
Yeah.
And it was just it remains the most diabolical thing I've ever seen in my life.
True.
Do you know that the mortality rate in New Zealand, where Jacinda Ardern forced everyone nearly everyone, to get the shot, 7,000% increase in mortality in
the rate of excess death?
Excess death, 7,000%.
Now that's according to, is it Dr. John Cameron?
It was something that I read. I think it came out from Dr. Paul Alexander and all of them, on Substack. That was big news about 3 months ago. I covered it on my program. But it was official. Yeah, it was New Zealand official death rates that were being published.
Oh, no, come on. New Zealand government was actually admitting to this?
Would they have a New Zealand Department of Health, or whatever you call it in your kind of country? We call our things departments, and you call them ministries, right? The ministries of health. Yeah.
Well, look
it up.
It's got, if they're admitting to 7,000, it's got to be way much higher than that. Then I would argue, because does it not seem what I've concluded over the years, every time the powers that be, they want to exaggerate something, like it's actually, the truth of the matter is it's not a big deal, but for political reasons, they want to exaggerate that. They blow everything out of proportion and try to whip up just a hysterical, as they did with the scamdemic, this insanity, of course, fueled by fear largely. That's always very effective. Whereas when you've got something that's a big deal that they don't want you to look at, like with, like 9/11, or or the excess deaths, or you name it, that they'll try to downplay it. They'll lowball, essentially, what the reality is. So standard operational procedure. Yeah, but anyways, but Robert, look, you said you would going to be dropping in for a short period of time.
Yeah,
It's, you've been
now.
really burning the candle at both ends here the
Yeah,
past.
I'm ready to go. I need to eat, but I wanted to share that update with you.
That's
And
brilliant. Oh no.
it's moving along. I notified the space program today, excuse me, the U.S. Space Force about these details. If you're,
Wow.
because we're planning to go to the moon with manned missions next year, and better not use lasers to do the altimetry. Got to use radar. All right, guys, have a good night.
Thanks. And so Robert Morningstar at
Check out the video.
Substack.
Check out the video I put in the chat. Good night.
Okay, thank you. Happy sailing. We'll do that right now, actually. I'm not sure how long it is, but House of Mirrors, that was Alan. And, secret space agenda and JFK assassination. Aha. That's really interesting. Yeah. So we'll share this then on his behalf with YouTube and D Live as well. So Roger, we're just winding things down here. Anything more that you care to add or contribute as far as?
Perfectly fine. I'm good to go. So
Did we
it's pretty
cover?
good.
Let's see. Now, Sonia Galactic has joined us here. That's great. She's risen from the dead. As we've really been worried about you, Sonia. So don't keep in touch. I mean, I didn't mean to say don't keep in touch. don't don't just disappear on us like that again. Be sure to keep in touch. In fact, it's too bad that Robert just left. We should have mentioned to him, as we will mention to Sonia now, the fact that he seems to have a pretty good line on some quality ivermectin. Ivermectin. Does BoobTube punish you for, how dare you even mention the name? It suggests that this, could be something that might help people. What do they call it? Like an animal dewormer? How could, well, it has received Nobel Prize medical recognition, but what could it possibly be worth, right? No value at all, clearly, so give me a break. Kind of like weed. Like, yeah, no medical function or value whatsoever that we've discovered here over the last 100 years. You know, they didn't want, it's because they didn't bother to. As it trust the science, yeah, trust the politicized science, trust the science
I don't even
that we
blame it
never
on science
engage in.
anymore.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
I don't even blame it on science anymore. It's they want you to just trust them.
It's a
like,
cult, man. It's a sick, it's a cult of wackos.
And people's thinking is so screwed up. Okay, like, and I use this as an example, and everybody says I'm crazy for it. But think about it like this. Okay, look at a veterinarian compared to a doctor. Okay. Now, most people think that doctors are more qualified than a veterinarian, but in reality, vets know how to handle multiple animals in their freaking physical bodies, and doctors only know the human anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
But they want you to believe that freaking a veterinarian doesn't have the qualifications to take care of a human being in an emergency situation because they're not properly trained.
Yeah. A vet, that's what you're saying, is that right?
A veterinarian, okay, has more qualifications than any doctor does. But you say that to people and they just freak out. They think, oh, no, they don't.
Well, doctors largely, they serve the function of a glorified drug dealer.
And they've only focused on the human anatomy.
Yeah. We shall propose a global system of satellites for weather control, JFK. A global system of satellites for weather control. Well, and didn't his nephew, RFK Jr., allude to during the speech that he made in Washington, D.C., something pretty much along those lines? it's an epic speech that CNN edited actually, but talking about this low orbit network of satellites, kind of like Skynet is what it's known.
Yeah.
And that's really what they're working on, man. It's pretty creepy, but who's stopping them? Doesn't seem like there's anybody stopping them. So, and Elon Musk is one of the central players. Say of him what you will, the detractors, and there's room for criticism. I mean, I'm not happy about the fact that both of our X accounts were suspended. And just total bullshit, basically. Uh, you know, in some ways, I hold him responsible. Is Mister Elon, not so free speech Musk, but I just heard recently during his teenage years, he made it. He trekked across the Canadian prairies, Saskatchewan, and beyond, where he worked in like lumber mills and on farms, I guess, and got his hands a little dirty and you know built up, rough, building up a few calluses
I wouldn't
as
believe all that. They'd be
well.
great.
Well, but hang on. This is during. He's a young guy, and maybe his dad, like, cause he spent time. No, he has family out there, man. Like that's with
Yeah.
uncles and whatnot. As do we, believe it or not, because a lot of people, the early European settlers, they crossed through the prairies to ultimately the more western part of the country in search of better life, I guess, right? As everyone has done throughout the years. So, uh,
I
and
don't
so
don't
because,
buy into all of that though. I mean, like
well,
everybody has
yeah,
got
yeah.
so many. They got so many folklore about him. Bob Dub even believed that he grew up poor, and I
Who,
had
the
to point
diamond
it.
diamond
Yeah,
diamond miner Musk?
yeah. And I told her, dude, look, his dad was a freaking diamond, freaking a
Yeah,
blood diamond,
and that's
freaking.
what. Well, who sent him? I think, was it his choice? Was it his choice, or did his father say, "Look, man, like you got to go and it's time for you to learn a thing or two about how other people live, and so you can go visit your family here out on the Canadian prairies." And let's not forget, it was his grandfather who eventually he was driven out of Canada. Is a story that I've heard. I've got to look into it a little more, but he was a leading force behind the whole technocracy movement. Historically, there's been some people that have covered this in you know you've done a great job in fleshing things out a little more than what I'm able to here at present. Unfortunately, we can draw this to your attention, though, at least, so that you, perhaps, as listeners, give it some thought yourself. If, in fact, not even taking the time to further investigate and explore these areas, but yeah, his grandfather was kind of, you know, sent packing basically, made not to feel not so comfortable in Canada, and that's where he left, relocated to South Africa, later dying in a plane crash in 1974. Supposedly, I think he was a pilot. He might have been piloting that plane, if I got my facts straight here, so people can look into it as they're so inclined. But no, he's an intriguing, very fascinating guy, and then there's that Thiel character too. Oh, by the way, yes, and Musk is part Jewish, but not in a big way per se. So just, as is, with so much, the mixing and kind of melting pot of Europe, there's going to be extensive, although there's certain groups, not naming any, of course, or tribes, as it were, that prefer to remain exclusive and set apart from. In fact, there is a term. Oh, what was it now? Nazarene. Jesus of Nazareth. That's one of the etymological renderings and interpretations of the term Nazareth or Nazarene. The town never even existed at the time of Christ. It's kind of how the story goes. It's at least my understanding. Once again, hey, don't take my word for it, folks. Fact check us on all of these items. If we're off base or somehow not really managing to deliver the goods, the straight dope, then be sure to get back to us. Let us know. Give us hell. So, and we're happy to correct, rectify our ways. That's one of the big downfalls and problems I see with social media, where they want to just endlessly punish and penalize people. They never tell them what they've done. So how is it that you're expected, if you've messed up somehow, how can you rectify or amend your ways if they never tell you what it is that you've done, in the first place? So it's kind of like, it's very Kafkaesque. Anyone, I think it's Kafka and the trial, or is that Camus? I believe it's Kafka. Once again, though, I could maybe talking out of my ass. So, but anyways, be that as it may, thank you to everyone who did contribute to this week's live stream. Roger, in particular, really. Now, you're not live streaming yourself, is that right, Roger, or are you? Because you were talking about having some problems with that
Yeah,
technical.
here lately, it's not just technical. It's just time consuming for me to actually be able to do all the stuff that I've been having to do to
Right?
keep up. I've been falling behind on a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
You do too much. I don't see. The thing with me is, I've been working on doing all I can really to dial it down, and that's largely because, like, we're not. It's completely listener supported, for one, right? And we're taking time off of work to be here in the first place, investing, as you say, hours upon hours into the work that we're doing with these shows, from the standpoint of, if providing information, dialogue, conversation, occasional entertainment, mirth, doing what we can to lift people's spirits as well, where possible. We're not here certainly to bring anybody down. That's the last thing that we would want. Of course, the pirates, Piratas de Dios, the pirates of God. Uh, Most definitely not. So, but yeah, if people can help out through PayPal, Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com, the Patreon end of things, purchase of merch throughout the course of it all via the various outlets that we have available. Um, liking, commenting, sharing, remembering to hit subscription, notification buttons, all that sort of good stuff, along with passing word along to friends, family, and coworkers. Without your help in one form or another, there's no guarantee that we will be able to continue to make this happen for any, much time more than what we have. And I say that quite seriously. It's been really touch and go here, unfortunately. Now, Bob Dub, I'll give a big salute and tip of the pirate hat to, along with Robert, for both of their digital and the help that they've offered via PayPal. Joe Pyatt, I recall, has at various points down through the years, you know, offered a bit of a hand, and in that capacity, Mr. Anderson, a multitude of others. Uh, Yourself here, Roger, with just the fact that you're doing what you can to either simulcast or syndicate. syndicate. Together we form a syndicate, of sorts, loose knit, informal, live streaming, pirate, underground pirate syndicate. So, and check out the homepage as well, WPRPN.com, the show description, end of things, to see really what motivates us, how you can better help to make the show as a whole a success. We have, there's digital donations people can offer. Reverend Jim, let's not forget about him. Let's not, Reverend Jim, don't forget about him. There's a lyric for you. A little bit of a rhyme. So definitely. And this hot chick on the motorbike. Yeah, my God. Oh, look out. She's in major trouble, that one. You can just tell. But being that as it may, Roger Hansen over on Mines. Robert Morningstar via Substack. Roger, anything more you care to add to things before we sign off?
No, I'm ready to go to bed.
Spent. You've had a pretty, yeah.
It's time to go to sleep.
I guess what time is it? It's about maybe 1 o'clock out there.
Yeah, it's getting to be 1:15 now. 1:08.
I see. Okay. Well, we'll let you sign off then. We've got you off screen here, so it's not a problem. And thank you so much, Roger Hansen over on Mines.
Not a problem. I'll talk to you later.
Happy sailing. That's great to have had his help, of course. Steve, unfortunately, out of Calgary, wasn't able to stay on board throughout the course of the show. Had some other urgent matters to attend to on the home front. We had Tank Man Alan Fredrickson helping out there with the audio tech end of things. Actually, I don't think people heard from him, but he was there in the pre-show. He was there in the pre-show, and then he had to head off into Betty by land. So now we're not too sure who we're going to have here. Truth be told, this coming Friday, are we even going to do a feature show? Put something together? Maybe, maybe not. We might end up going out busking. Hey, weather's kind of coming around a little bit here, getting kind of sunny. We might have our first 2025 edition of Late Night in Korea that we could be producing as well Monday night here, 11:30 via the Tokyo and Seoul time zone. A lot of things cooking here, folks. Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com. However you choose to look at, a lot of things cooking. And WPRPN.com, World Pirate Radio Podcast Network, the People's Pirate Network. You are the ones who make the magic happen. On behalf of Captain Long John Sinclair and all the rest of the crew here down in Skullport Harbor, I'm your host as always, show's Chief Communications Officer Jeffrey Ryder. Ear to the ground, eyes to the sky. Tally-ho!